Hi, I'm Jerry Burnett, and I am going to give you the second podcast, which is explaining the Toulmin model. If you haven't listened to the first podcast, it explains the claim, which is the first component of this model. I suggest you go listen to that first. The rest of this will make a lot more sense. Caution, stop using warring words. That's what's advocated by Deborah Tannen. In her book, which I studied in my undergrad at Bowling Green State University a few years ago, she explains that a lot of times college and university professors and instructors, they encourage people to do cutthroat debate when they teach people how to argue. And she said, we have to stop this culture of warring words where we tear down other people. And in her book, she has a short story, and this is what it says. It's titled, The Death of an Admiral, a Dragnet of Attack. On May 16, 1996, Jeremy Mike Borda, the top-ranking admiral leading the U.S. Navy, left his office to go home for lunch and shot himself in the chest and killed himself. Why did he do this? The media and the culture had been attacking and attacking and attacking this man for days, weeks, months, even years, trying to say that he didn't earn the medals that he had. And he just got weary and he quit trying to defend himself, and the way he got out of the situation was that he killed himself. When we're little, we say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me. That's not true. Words have power. Words can destroy. They can build up or they can tear down. So I want to help you learn how to make an oral argument where you're not tearing down the other people to make your stand, that you're going to learn how to make a good oral argument stand on its own merit. Now, there's another man named Carl Rogers, and you might have studied him in some of your other coursework. Carl Rogers, he says in his persuasive argument theory that instead of tearing down and fighting, you should try to build bridges to the people that you don't agree with and find as many commonality points or points of agreement so that you can kind of shake hands with the person. And when you're on friendlier terms, people are more willing to listen to what you have to say when you're trying to persuade them. But that's not the model I'm using now either. The model we're talking about is the Toulmin model. And the first component of that model is a claim. And as you learned in the first podcast, it's a claim of fact, value, or policy. Now, one thing about it, it must be debatable. If your claim is not debatable, then it's not a good claim to use for your persuasive speech. Also, some teachers teach it's a claim. Some say it's a proposition of fact, value, or policy. Sometimes it's even called a question of fact, value, or policy. But a Toulmin model claim is never a question. It's you taking a stand and making a short, emphatic, pithy, potent statement that something is or is not, or should not. If it is a claim of fact or value, it will say that something is or is not. If it's a plural subject like cigarettes, it will say are or are not. But if you are making a policy statement, if your claim is a claim of policy, then you are going to have the word should or should not. And one thing about the claim, it can be a positive claim or a negative claim. I can say marijuana should be legalized, or I can say marijuana should not be legalized. You can take either stand on your claim, positively or negatively. It's still a great claim of fact, value, or policy. Now, once you've established your claim, and perhaps your best place to find what your claim might be would be from the inventory that's at the beginning of your workbook. There's a whole section there, and it says things like the 2 things that bug you the most at home, school, or work, or the 2 best or worst singers, musicians, athletes. What's your favorite or least favorite of any of these categories, or author? Go to your inventory. That's where you probably will find a claim that you have some ego involvement. Now, once you have your claim, it needs to be a claim that has at least 2 warrants. And by warrants, I mean it has to be relevant to you and relevant to the audience. If this claim doesn't have any importance or import or interest, it doesn't even have to be a serious thing. Kellogg's cereals are great. That's a claim. Could some people, is it debatable? Some people never eat Kellogg's cereals. So it's got to be relevant to you, something that you have some ego involvement in, but it also should have at least some relevance to your audience. So once you have your claim, you should have at least 2 warrants. Why is this something that you want to talk about, and why should your audience give a rip? Why is it relevant to your audience? So in the model, we have 1 claim, 2 warrants. Now, this is looking a little top-heavy. This is supposed to represent a scale. 1 claim equals 2 warrants. But what's holding all this up? Well, the first thing are grounds. Grounds are what you got from your research. There's numerous places you can get your grounds. The electronic databases, books, magazines, opinions, surveys, polls, evidence, credible evidence. The grounds support your claim. It tells why you think this is the right claim to make. So you can have expert testimony. When you go and do your research, that research, you should be looking for things that back up your claim and that are on your side of your claim. Now, backing is the second part of what's foundational to the Toulmin model, and backing supports the warrants. For example, if my claim is there should be a railroad crossing gate put on the Main Street crossing, okay? Maybe I had a friend that was killed at that crossing. That makes it relevant to me. But all of you cross that railroad crossing a lot of times every week, so it should have some impact or import. I would go and look for backing to support my warrants, statistics, evidence, while grounds support your claim. Backing supports your warrants. And in your research, you're hopefully finding plenty of both to support your argument. The next part of this model is called qualifiers. We don't want to use all-ness statements. All-ness statements are things like all, always, never, no one, everyone. All-ness statements reduce your credibility. They also make it look like you have not looked at other areas of your topic. Qualifiers say things like sometimes, usually, frequently, seldom. These words, they don't sound as emphatic as all or always, but educated people, when they hear those all-ness statements, a red flag should go up in your mind, because there are very few things. There are some things, but there are very few things in this life that are that dogmatic. All, always, never, everyone, no one. So according to Toulmin, you're more persuasive. There's an example possibly in your workbook, or you can find online, about using hearing aids. And at the beginning of your speech, maybe your claim is people with hearing loss should buy new tone hearing aids. That would be a fine claim to make, because some people would argue against that. But to say everyone who gets a new tone hearing aid has improved hearing. Everyone? Somebody in your audience could be sitting there thinking, my grandparents got those hearing aids and it didn't help them. You reduce your credibility when you use all-ness statements, so stay away from them. Use qualifying statements. Even though they don't sound as persuasive, it is better to say usually, most, some, in those kinds of terms. The bottom part of this model is called rebuttals. And what are rebuttals? Rebuttals are arguments against your claim. It's what the opposition says, why they have the opposite view of your claim. So a rebuttal, why would you want to spend time in your speech giving credence to the other side? There's several reasons why. Here's one. If you make a claim, but you don't talk about the opposition, you look narrow-minded. It looks like, I think this because I think it. But if you present rebuttals and show what the other side says, you're showing that I don't think this because I'm narrow-minded. I've looked at all the evidence. I've looked at the other sides of this issue. And remember, no issue only has 2 sides. Everything has multiple sides to the issue, generally speaking. I won't say everything, but generally speaking, there are multiple sides to an issue. So when you address the rebuttals, what you're really saying is, I've looked at various things, but this is my claim. Another reason why you want to have some rebuttals in your speech is because you want to say what the opposition says and then pull the rug out from under it. Show why it's wrong thinking, or why your plan is better, or why that's faulty in some ways. So make sure in your speech that you have plenty of grounds to support your claim, backing to support your warrants, qualifying statements and not almost statements, and that you address some rebuttals on the other side so that you will look like more of a credible speaker. In this speech, you will have an extra document to do along with your full preparation outline and your bibliography page. You're asked to do a Toulmin Model document. And in that document, you should have one claim, at least 2 warrants, you can have more, and then a minimum of 8 grounds, or however many your assignment says. Now, if you have extra, up to 15 extra warrants in all these, the 8 is a combination. You don't have to have 8 grounds and 8 backing, but I ask you to have 8 of all this support, and if you have 15 more, you could earn 15 more points of extra credit. So, I look forward to hearing your claim, hearing your argument, and seeing you take a stand. But make sure it's not just about how you feel. I wouldn't want you to say, I feel abortion is wrong. I feel women should have choice. I feel we need stronger gun control laws. I feel we have the right to bear arms and gun control should be left alone. I want you to pick a topic that you have feeling and passion for, but this isn't just about how you feel. I want to have plenty of pathos, a lot of passion, a lot of feeling. But no offense, we don't really give a rip just how you feel. I want it backed up with ethical evidence and a lot of logic. Thank you.